What's up, everybody? It is your fourth favorite podcast, the Sports Counterpoints podcast. I'm GB. I got Brian and Coop. What's going on, my guys?
Not much, man.
And wait, am I
2025
on mute?
moving forward.
Now you there? You there? We
Okay,
can hear you
what's up? Okay,
loud,
all right.
loud and clear
Make
with
it
it.
happen. All right.
Yeah, man, we back to it. So today is what is today? June 25th, 2024. Happy birthday to my grandma Carol Young yesterday. We love you. May
Yeah.
you rest
Well,
peacefully always. Yeah, so we're talking that. Let's get to it. So we're talking about the NBA finals, which have now concluded. We got a new champion. We're talking about some more basketball with the Lakers being sold, which is very interesting. Um, Kevin Durant, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis all get traded and moved around. And then also a question that Coop posed, which I think is a good one about fan conduct and its impacts. So let's start with the finals, man. Finals recap. NBA season is over. You have a new champion. Oklahoma City Thunder have won their first championship. Seattle um, fans are excited. Some are sad about it, right? So the Supersonics became the Oklahoma City Thunder, if you didn't know. So what do you guys think, man? What do you think about the games? What do you think about the outcome? You know, what does this mean, if anything, to you?
B, you go ahead. How you
It took
feel?
a long time for me to be right, but it was in the end because I said
Yeah.
it. I told you when you were here. It was OKC. I saw them get tromped on by Indiana and started second guessing myself. Ultimately, when we got a chance to talk about it, I said I'm going to stay with my pick because that was my pick, and
Sure.
better to be lucky than good, that's for sure. But you know, every moment that Indiana let this series continue, they lost the ability to pull what would have been a huge upset. And congratulations to Oklahoma City, but they kind of had the unfortunate circumstance of doing what they were supposed to do. Right, one of the top five most winning teams in NBA history. I didn't realize that until someone mentioned that stat. That's crazy that they were one of the five most winningest teams in the NBA history. Their talent wasn't just SGA. It was kind of, they had a little bit more across the
Definitely.
board. And I think ultimately that they were able to outlast the talent. While I understand that Tyrese Halliburton getting hurt is huge and very impactful, I don't think his absence was the difference. I don't think that if he were there, it necessarily meant that Indiana would have won. I mean, they ultimately got kind of beat up in that game seven, and I don't think that Tyrese Halliburton, had he been there for that second half, was going to be a 20-point difference maker in talent. And that's, remember that he was, before his major injury, and I hope he gets back quickly, healthy and completely. But before that, he was still injured and unable to play the game the way he would normally want to. But either way, I don't, even at full steam, I think ultimately the most talent will outlast, in a 7-game series, will outlast the lesser of the talent. And I think that's ultimately what happened here. It went 7 games, and the most talented team won because they had a lot of depth and a lot of people who stepped up at the right time and made the right plays. So congratulations to OKC. I know that there wasn't a lot of people who watched this series, but it was still a good and interesting series. It went 7 games. Anytime you get a game 7 in any type of event, it's something that's worth watching. It's always an outstanding thing. I know that this was not going to break any records for viewership, but congratulations to them. They did the thing. And congratulations to SGA for winning the MVP award. I'm 100% certain that the Clippers are kicking themselves for letting him go for literally nothing. He was the add-in to the Paul George trade. It was just, and also involved in. Jason, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have been who he was if he stayed on the Clippers, though.
Yeah,
No.
it's the Clippers too. I'm happy they did that trade. But so I'm
no one can be what they should be if they're on the Clippers.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned. Well, let's start with this. I actually disagree, Brian. I think if Halliburton would have played, I think they had a chance to win. And here's the reason why. When Halliburton is now on the court, Indiana doesn't have any movement on offense. They look stagnant. This guy, TJ McConnell, the point guard, seems like he's just dribbling all around in circles, not sure of what to do. Whereas Halliburton is a little bit more decisive and can get guys shots. Not saying they would have made them, but there's a little bit more free-flowing movement when Halliburton's on the court. When he's not on the court, everybody's just jacking up threes. It's stagnant. It seems like they're discombobulated, don't know what they're doing on offense. Carlisle tried to call a lot of timeouts to try to get them in sets, but it just didn't work. And Oklahoma City's depth just came through. As far as just watching the game to the eye, it looks like to me watching these two teams play, especially OKC and SGA, it's just like watching an AAU game, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's not any disrespect, but it's just the way that they play the game. Oklahoma City has the moments where they just, for a quarter and a half or so, they just fall in love with shooting 3-point shots and the movement is gone. But when they are able to play with movement, then they are a really good basketball team. I still think, even though they're young, congratulations to them to get a championship. I don't put SGA yet as far as having a game like some of the the better, like, I guess, the greats. I don't see him having a Kobe game or a Jordan game. I look at SGA as having his own game. He likes to primarily drive left and get some contact or whatever, kind of push off a little bit, get his shot, which I don't really worry about his little push offs or whatever. But he's definitely a scorer. But I think he will need probably a little bit more going forward to be considered one of the better offensive players in the history of the game, which I think he has a chance to be. Just depends on how much he works on his game. But being 24, 25, ever old he is, and winning MVP and balling like he does, I mean, congratulations to him. I was rooting for OKC because Russell Westbrook, Durant, and James Harden all played for that franchise, and they couldn't win jack with them. And they get these collection of guys who don't have all these huge egos. They play together. They play basketball pretty much the right way during this period of time of basketball, and they won a championship. I mean, that's why I was rooting for OKC. Not that I hated Indiana, but I just like in OKC had these guys.
Hated Westbrook that much.
And, and that too, yeah. And so it's good for all those guys to sit there and watch OKC win a championship. So good for them.
It's a good point that you made there. Those are 3 Hall of Famers. KD, whether I want him to be or not, because I don't. Harden and Westbrook. And I would argue there is not anyone on the OKC team as it's currently constructed. It is definitely a Hall of Famer. SGA with one win in the NBA final is not a definite Hall of Famer.
Right.
He's got a long way to go before he gets to that point. And they were able to win, right? I mean, I love that. It says a lot.
They also got to, if OKC then got to play the Pacers, if the Pacers had beat the Hawks, they'd have had a shot. The Pacers had beat the Heat, they'd have had a chance as well. They did come up against Braun, Bosh, Wade, and a pretty motivated Miami team. So helps the area you're in.
That went 7 games too, and Dwayne Wade was hurt most of that series too, and Indiana still couldn't beat him. But yeah, I remember that time. I didn't know this. I guess I knew it, but never thought it and didn't think about it. The last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years has been a different NBA champion. Oklahoma City, Boston, Denver, Golden State, Milwaukee, the Lakers, and Toronto. I didn't even think about that.
I like that the Lakers are still involved in that. I like that you went back far enough to give us one. That was awesome.
I'll talk about that in a minute. But why did Caruso have to throw that shade?
I didn't hear it, so
we'll
hear about it when you talk about it.
He was asked, how does this championship feel compared to the other one? He says, well, now I've got a real champ.
Yeah.
No one can
say
that's fair. About this one.
No, that's not fair, because I still think the bubble chip is the hardest one. There's no home court advantage.
I'd agree with that, but I
see
in NBA circles, right? If you're a Jordan, etc. I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna take Jordan out because it sounds like Jordan's coming back. From what I'm reading, he's coming back to say, give the young guys their due and stop being stuck on the past. But to that point, you look at Kobe's and all them other guys who traveled and played all them series on the road and did all that. Yes, I'll give him that. It's more Magic Johnson, Kobe, all these guys have that experience. Only those set of group guys have the bubble experience. But to your point, there's no home court advantage. Everybody's right there.
Right.
It's equal just basketball.
No travel. Exactly.
Just basketball. Nothing else but the hoop. So that's fair. But I get why he said it, because a lot of people asterisk that one.
Yeah, right. But people don't ever asterisk the year that Tim Duncan and them won in '99 when it was 50 games that year. Nobody asked for that. Nobody asked for that. In the NFL they had a strike one year. They only played 12 games. I forgot who won the Super Bowl that year, but nobody asterisks that. So I don't believe in that.
To your point, crazy. You can't remember who won it because it's just whoever won it.
Whoever won it.
Right.
And the further you get away from any event, the less the minutia of that event matters.
Yeah.
Got
The
recency
bubble chip in
bias.
20 years will not be a bubble chip. It'll just be
Championship.
another banner, hopefully with some other sense coming up
Man, that'd be
for the
great.
Lakers.
Word
Yeah.
up, word up. Speaking of, man, that's actually I mean, you kind of guys said everything I thought for the finals. I did think what I mentioned earlier was good basketball. For as much as I talked about how basketball wasn't, what I like to watch, the end of the NBA, the finals, and even the Eastern and Western in spots were actually enjoyable to watch. I think the game does still devolve into a 3-point shooting contest in spots. If you're hitting it, it's one thing, it's exciting, okay, fine. But if you start missing, it just gets torturous to watch, and
It
they'll
really
go
does.
on. And
Yeah.
SGA was, everybody was guilty of it too. I'm watching and
Yeah.
they come down and just jack one up, and he gets a rebound, comes up and and then they start moving the ball and getting to the basket, and good things happen. So, but yeah, it was cool to see. It was what we thought as far as ratings. Small market teams, even with young superstars and all that, it's going to be hard to
Well,
market.
well, I
No
wouldn't.
stars, no
Yeah.
superstars.
I wouldn't put it just on that.
Fair.
GB, Brian, because the last 5 years, they have the ratings for the top 100 broadcast every year.
Sure.
The NBA has not cracked the top 100 the
Yeah.
last 5 years.
Well, and
So
and I think this was even low on that scale for the NBA.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
right. And
Comparison to
Boston
other
played last
NBA
year.
yeah,
games.
which we expected, right? But first, if you just like basketball, it was good basketball, so it's hard to argue that. But once you get to the finals, Super Bowl, World Series, you kind of need those draws to get people who don't watch to tune into.
Well, the last time they had the top 100 broadcast, the Lakers won a title that year. That was the bubble chip. So
yeah, and
people
watch
watch the
also
Lakers.
didn't have nothing
We're
else to.
super happy to
Yep.
watch something.
Yeah,
but real
exactly.
talk.
You were at
real
home,
talk.
so interesting
Yeah.
enough. So speaking
Yeah.
of, man, as we talk about that, the Lakers sell. Brian, you're out there in LA. You're in some
What's the
close
vibe?
circles. So yeah, what's the vibe, and what can you tell us about dude who also owns
Yeah,
part of the Dodgers, right?
Well, so he's he's a big chunk of the Guggenheim partners who own the Dodgers. One thing that is kind of interesting is that his net worth is only supposed to be like 6 or 7 billion. He just bought a team that has a valuation of 10 billion. Today they came out and said that valuation might actually get up to 12 billion before the transaction is complete.
Damn.
An extra 20% or $2 billion, give or take. But anyways, but yeah, Mark Walter is I think well liked in Los Angeles. There are the things that I heard anecdotally from just being around and hearing people in the hallways at work or at a restaurant or wherever, was that they're excited about it, because there's a lot of people who thought that the Bust family was too caught up in their own drama to really be able to focus on the team. The Bust family is nowhere near worth billions of dollars. No one on it is worth billions of dollars. Not even with the sale of the team will any one of them turn out to be a billionaire, because of the way the taxes and everything else work. So, everyone gets to see the Cubans and Bombers and all these billionaires with FU money, where they can basically say, hey, I decided that I want to win or go for a title this year. I don't care about the salary cap. Mark Walter is someone who can do that. And in fairness, has done that with the Dodgers. Before the Guggenheim partners took over, every year there was this question about would the Dodgers have enough to be able to get to a point where they were going to compete for a championship. Now with Mark Walter and the Guggenheim partners owning the team, every year the question is there some talent that the Dodgers can't get?
Right.
And Shohei and everything else, because they're so consistently can have a blank check from Mark Walter, who is the majority owner of the Dodgers, to do what they need to do to win. And so I think a lot of people in Los Angeles and fans of the team are excited about what they think will be the same type of, hey, figure it out, go do it. And I'm on board with that. They did keep Jeannie in her job as president of the organization, which fine, but I think everyone's going to know that Mark Walter is someone who will allow for them to do great things. And I think Mark Walter is clearly, you don't buy sports teams because you want to make money. You buy sports team because you want notoriety, because you want people to know you. Mark Walter now has an opportunity, minus him screwing it up and becoming, a horrible person, but to be the name in sports history for Los Angeles, up there with the buses and with the Jack King Cooks and all of those types of folks, owning the Dodgers through a period of multiple championships and being consistently a perennial contender, and hopefully owning the Lakers as they rise back into relevance, which they do about once every 2 decades. Like if you look at history by decade,
it's every decade,
every decade,
there's one decade where they're super relevant, and then one decade where they win absolutely nothing. The only exception to that rule is the one that they won in the bubble, back in 2020. They got that one in 2020.
And 10 years, exactly, right? Yep.
Yeah, you get the Magic Johnson years, and you get the Sedale 3, Nick Van Exel years, and you get Shaq and Kobe, and then
they didn't win a darn thing in the 90s. I didn't realize that was kind of my high tide for watching sports, and yet they were not good back then.
Yeah, Cedric Ceballos, Eddie Jones,
Eldon Campbell.
Yeah, Eldon Campbell, another one.
And kind of
Nick
conflict
Van
of that.
Exel.
That point you made, though, be like now with as we saw with the New York Liberty sale. I don't know if you saw the Valkyries value. You can get into sports to make money, maybe not on a daily revenue, but when you sell and all the way these teams are going,
100% on the sale.
You know what I mean? But 100% on a daily revenue. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Yeah, that's why the Buss family had to get rid of it, because they are cash poor. They don't have another source of income. They're not real estate moguls like their father was. So on and so forth. This was the only way that they could get into that 100 millionaire conversation. Look, it's a lot of money.
The Mark Davis situation, 100%.
Yeah, I was happy with the sale because I think we all can agree it wasn't going as well with the family-owned business. The Lakers, I like it because I think this guy hopefully gets rid of Pelinka, but I think he's going to spend some cash and try to get players on the team, which we need. The Lakers don't own property. I didn't know that. They don't own any property. So
just what Brian was saying about the Buss.
So
the family.
So they probably need to just, probably, I don't know, try to get their own stadium or whatever. The owner might spend more money to get a better bench, because I've never been a fan of the bench. The Lakers have never been a fan of analytics. They might get an analytics department now. I know Boston and Brad Stevens and them are really heavy on that. So I think this can be nothing but a positive thing, like Brian said, unless the guy kind of screws it up and is a horrible human being. But what he's done with the Dodgers is amazing.
Crazy valuation to get without any property being involved. Golden State property involved. A lot of these other teams property involved. To be the highest valued current team in sports and in basketball, with no property involved, and they're not leaving the Staples Center for a while. They got some kind of a crazy long lease that they had to do to be the primary tenant. The owner is, I think, it used to be. I don't know if it still is, but it used to be the owner of the Kings owned Staples.
Wow. Okay.
I still call it Staples. Crypto.
I'm always calling it Staples.
Me too. But anyway,
it's called crypto.com or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I call it Staples. Yeah, it's Staples.
Yeah, it's always gonna be Staples.
Fakemoney.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see. I'm curious, like you guys said. I think it can, because like basketball has a different cap than baseball, but to that same point you made, if you don't care about the luxury tax and you can pay it, then do what you do. So,
well, I guess we might segue to that, because Boston's trying to get rid of people so they can fall under that second threshold and now the first threshold of luxury tax. But we'll get into that.
Are they still? I mean, their deal is going through. I mean,
let's just segue. I don't have anything else for the Lakers unless y'all do.
No. Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So speaking of Boston, right? They traded. Who they got rid of?
Drew Holiday and Porzingis.
So Boston Celtics get
Drew
George
Holiday.
Niang. The Hawks get Kristaps Porzingis. Brooklyn gets Terrence Mann. Okay. So what do you guys think about this? Does this do anything does this make the Hawks East Coast contender now?
No.
Hawks contender? Hawks? Never.
I mean,
never.
In the East, right?
No.
I didn't say
they still have Trae Young, right?
Oh God.
Right. Yeah, you ain't lying about that.
Rule still applies, correct?
For you,
Hasn't happened, won't happen.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, Celtics were just trying to dump salary cap. I was reading that I guess there's 2 different luxury thresholds, and now they're just under the second one. They're trying to get under the first one. So I think that's when Porzingis trade came through. I'm not sure if that trade put them under that threshold, but they don't want to pay any luxury tax. I think they know with Tatum being out, They ain't winning the champ. They're not going to be a championship team. And also, Red, they might, not saying it's true, but they might think about moving Jaylen Brown too. I'm not saying they will, but
I don't think they moved Jaylen. He's such a good dude. But it makes perfect sense to try and get under a cap when you know that you're having a dead year. That being said, guess who they drafted? You talked about it earlier. They drafted somebody who's a relatively tall guard.
Yeah, Juan Marcos Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
DeMarco. What?
So, I'm sure he's going to get plenty of time in during Tatum's convalescence.
Wow, damn convalescence. They got and then I see that Anthony Simmons gets traded from Portland for Drew Holiday. That's what you guys were also mentioning as well.
Yeah.
From Boston.
Yeah, Drew Holiday is pissed.
Portland.
He didn't know about it until after it happened.
That's kind of the Celtics MO a little bit though, right?
Yeah. No, they kind of bounce on you. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen them do this before. So
it says here Boston will save more than $200 million in luxury tax payments between those two moves.
Ooh.
Between Drew, so
I get it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You start talking them numbers, I get it.
Right.
I didn't know that Jordan Poole got traded either. He went to New Orleans. Him and
they for CJ McCollum.
It's for CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk too.
Yeah. I guess Washington got tired of Jordan Poole. Like, man, get the hell on.
Yeah.
New Orleans will take him.
And Kelly Olynyk is an all right player. So I don't know, does it make either team somebody I'm concerned about? Not really, but
I think we can sound the bust alarm on Jordan Poole at this point.
Yeah, he was rolling out there. You get socked in your mouth for the whole world to see. That takes a toll on you.
Yeah, I was some guy on Spot Track was saying if Cooper Flag, just talking about draft, if Cooper Flag, I guess, is a superstar that people think he's going to be, his rookie contract will be $63 million. He'll be eligible for a supermax where he'll make $359 million. And then after that, another supermax for $509 million. He can make $930 million at 31 years old, which is crazy. That's a stupid amount. Stupid.
Dang.
Yeah, right.
That money is crazy.
930 million.
That's too much to him. I don't think he's that guy, but
no, me either. Me either.
Well, but I will say this: he doesn't necessarily have to be that guy for you to get them big contracts because we've seen them guys get paid, right?
Yeah.
Those middle top of the middle tier players get max money.
Yeah, he could be the Kirk Cousins of the NBA.
Straight up. Yeah, just
Kirk Cousins has gotten paid hell of money.
Hell of money, still getting paid.
Right.
Okay, so the big one, I guess, is KD gets traded. It's only big because of the name now. I think KD's always.
I was going to say it's been funny how
he's always going to mean something.
There's all these memes and little video clips about people reacting to the trade, and it's all like, yeah, KD got traded, and he got traded to Houston, and
So speaking of that, what you think about that? Well, actually, Glenn, let's go to the details of the trade.
Got you. So you got Kevin Durant gets traded to the Rockets with the Suns. The Suns get Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, a 2025 first round pick, that was this year, number 10, 2025 second round pick, that was 59, 2 second round picks for 2026, a 2030 second round pick, and a 2032 second round pick.
So 5 second round picks, the first in this year's draft, Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. Did they give up too much, Brian?
Because it's mostly second round picks.
I was gonna say,
I mean, who was the guy who just went to Orlando or whatever that got? I mean,
that's number 10. That's Jace Richardson. That's Jason Richardson's. Isn't that
no. The trade.
Desmond Bane.
Desmond Bane is the highest valued player of all these people getting traded. Luka was traded for less than him. KD was traded for less than him.
Oh yeah, these are all first round picks.
Yeah.
Or swaps. There's dang.
Everything was a first round pick of the Desmond Bane one. It was Desmond Bane was the most valued trade. But anyways, look, I understand if you're Houston and you think that you're on the cusp, which they clearly do because they got a lot of wins. I understand getting rid of second round picks, which that's basically what they did, to take their shot. So from their perspective, it makes sense. And they have a pretty on paper stacked lineup that should be competitive in the West. And if you're the Suns and you just really, really wanted to get rid of KD, and you're also accepting that you're not going to win anytime soon because you have the world's worst no trade contact with Bradley Beal, no trade clause with Bradley Beal, you're going to be broke for a really long time. So this trade makes a lot of sense on both. Do I think it makes either team win a championship? Probably not, but Houston thinks so. So they should do that. And Suns realize that they're stuck with Bradley Beal until his, 2 more years. I think he's got millions and millions of dollars on there. They're never going to be able to trade him. So you might as well get a bunch of second round developmental picks and see what shakes. And they're cheap.
Yeah. Somebody asked me who I thought won this trade. Same answer I always have. The team that got the star. Durant isn't what he used to be, but he's still the star in this trade. So out of all the major sports, the 4 major sports, hockey, baseball, NFL, NBA has the most worthless draft picks. So giving up for 5 second rounders and a first rounder who ended up being some guy, center from Duke, looks like his name is Camacho, something like that. Whatever his name is, never heard of him. I mean, I'm not keeping a pick just to draft this guy. So, I mean, Houston, like Brian said, they think they're a player away from being really a contender. I don't necessarily think so. Durant gets hurt a lot, but they think so. So it makes sense for them. And Phoenix had said for the last couple of weeks that they were moving Durant because they were my hogwash a while ago, how they had this very expensive payroll, probably the most expensive in this year, and they didn't do anything. So you got to get rid of Durant. He makes about $50-some million. So, I mean, it's smart for Phoenix, and they're not going to be a contender anytime soon anyway. But, this trade really didn't mean nothing to me. I found out he went to Houston. Now, his preferred destination was San Antonio and Houston. Houston ended up getting him, whatever. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, they only have 2 expensive players on Houston. Fred VanVleet, who's at 40-something million, and KD at 51 million. They've got some pretty talented players at some pretty reasonable prices. So if somebody could consume an outsized paycheck, this is it. And also remember that this is his last year. He gets his 51 million this year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. So Houston also puts themselves where they get a 1-year buy. Maybe they get KD to stay at a cap friendly thing if they think that they're close, or he goes and they get $54 million for the cap space next year.
Yeah, that's all.
Pretty much. Yeah. Any other?
I want to get you guys' thought on what I sent you guys earlier, that the Lakers are discussing a trade to get Andrew Wiggins from the Miami Heat. For Rui, most likely, maybe Kenneth as well, but definitely Rui. My personal thoughts is I'm not a fan of the Lakers bench. I've said that already. So getting somebody that actually plays defense like Wiggins will help because LeBron can't do it at a high level anymore. And then Doncic just doesn't do it. And even if he did, he wouldn't be good at it. So getting a wing like him to be like a 3rd or 4th option where you don't have to rely on Wiggins to actually score points to win games. I mean, I think it's a good situation. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I got to see it when it happens.
I just don't think that Anthony Wiggins is better suited as a 3rd guy than he is a 1st or a 2nd, right? And that's essentially what he would be. But I really think that the Lakers need to go and figure out how to get that super athletic center that can play with the way that Luka wants to play, which is run and throw it in the air for alley-oops. They thought they might have had that in the trade earlier in the year, which got overturned because of health reasons. There are people who are out there that you could possibly figure out a way to do a sign and trade if you're willing to eat a whole bunch of cap space and pay the penalties, which hopefully Mark Walter will willing to do. I just don't think that Wiggins is that guy. He may have been a high flyer at one point in time in his career, but I don't see that in him right now anymore. And they really need to find that player if they're trying to build around Luka. And that's the style of play that Luka wants to play, which is, consistently how he wants to play. Again, not a huge Luka fan, but if you're trying to build around him and you're trying to do it in a way that gives LeBron one last run, it seems to me that Wiggins is not the right player, and they need to go find the super athletic guy who runs and can dunk and play the alley-oop game above the rim.
Yeah, maybe they do both. Okay. There. All right. We already kind of talked about Desmond Bane, so that's cool. Any other thoughts on this?
No.
Slide to the
No.
last topic. All right, so fan conduct, and Coop brought this up after what happened in the Chicago White Sox Arizona Diamondbacks game when
Yeah.
a fan heckled. The guy's name is Kettle Marte, I believe.
Yeah.
Says he
That is,
heckled him about his late mother, and the guy broke down, was crying on
Yeah.
field. And there's actually been more instances of this than, where fans like have actually gotten to players and they've broken down racial slurs, things about
Angel
family,
Reese has had
etc.
an experience along these lines.
Happens a lot in European football, meaning soccer, with players of African descent. It's just how it goes. So,
Mhm.
Coop, you kind of brought it up. Kick us off, man. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, man. So yeah, his mother died in a car accident in 2017. I guess this fan said something to him that he heard it, because players can hear stuff during baseball games. Glenn, we've sat close enough where
Oh yeah,
we could have said stuff and they would have heard us. But I mean, I just I know you're a fan. I know you bought a ticket, but I think there has to be some type of rules. You just can't go there and just say whatever the hell you want to say or do whatever
no,
the hell you want to do. Hell, they got that in AAU. You can't just be doing whatever just because you paid $15. I think the same goes for these professional sports games, and I think they did right. In fact, I know they did right by kicking that guy out of the stadium. I mean, there's just a
he's
line you
and he's
can't cross.
banned from all Major League Baseball stadiums.
Oh, good, good, because there's just a line that you just can't cross, man. That's just, I mean, at some point, I know that
And
they
that's
don't
not
pay.
even a little bit past it. It's
Oh no, that's
way
way
beyond
past.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I know you want to root against the team, and that's fine. There are other ways to do it besides talking about somebody's, mother who has passed away. Man, that's just wrong. I mean, that
Yeah,
hurt me. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
To read that.
it's
You know what I
classless
mean?
and disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, but
Just as
I
a
will
person.
say this. I have to say this. There's a player by the name of Kevin Garnett who told Tim Duncan while they were playing Happy Mother's Day, knowing his mom had passed away. That's messed up, but that's Kevin Garnett. That's who he is. But
Did Kevin say it? Or you heard him say it, or you heard
no,
stories about it?
Kevin Garnett
Kevin
said it.
acknowledged that he said it.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
he's
said
wild.
it.
He was wild, but yeah.
Yeah, but so player to player, that's
But
different.
you're on the court though. Like my thing
Right,
is,
you're on the court.
if
Right.
the fans, I think, okay, cool, but square up then.
Yeah. So
Like if you want to talk that, hop
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We
you
were
talk.
talking about fan conduct. That was, if that were a
Yeah,
fan
it's
who said that to Tim,
disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. But B, what you think about it?
I think that these fans, all fans, I've gone to tons of games. You buy a ticket to watch the game, root your team on in a classy manner, boo them, say, you suck, all that kind of stuff. That's well within bounds, make noise, try and distract them, so on and so forth. But when you get too classless, that was the right result. And I hope they enforce it, because I know that it's very difficult to enforce someone being able to get into a game. They can't have a picture at every entrance saying, don't let this guy, he might wear a hat, whatever. Yeah. But I hope they enforce it. I hope that the people, the other rest of the fans collectively enforce it. If they see that guy in there, say, hey, I think that might be the guy who got kicked out, go check a look, because he deserves the penalty that he got. Yeah. And I sincerely hope he has to languish through every bit of that. I don't know how big a fan he was, or if he was just a drunk jerk at a baseball game.
Which happens a lot.
But quite honestly, it would make me a little bit happier if he was a huge baseball fan and he just got kicked out of every major league stadium for life, because it hopefully paints a better example of what should and shouldn't happen in sports. I have long since, and Glenn I know has heard me say it, and I've long since had a problem with with football and European soccer. With European football and soccer, because of these types of things. When the U.S. team goes to Mexico and they literally throw big bottles of urine at them, that was disgusting, and feces. Or they go to Europe and European teams playing other European teams, get into beating up people and just shouting obscenities and all that kind of, like, really obscenities. Horrible things. It has always made it hard for me to root for that sport and watch that sport, because there's an element of classlessness that people are allowed to go to, and they just go, oh, that's just soccer crazies. I'm like, you throw some, Landon Donovan's the one who got hit with a big baggie of pee in Mexico City years ago. There's literally nothing that I wouldn't do to try and find that person and even that score. There needs to be fan conduct rules that are consistently upheld across all sports. And I hope that at some point in time they can do that.
You had me thinking a couple things. One, I thought about DeMarcus Cousins. There was an incident of maybe last
Yeah.
month.
Puerto
You guys
Rico.
saw
Yeah.
fan on the sidelines, and he's getting into it. DeMarcus was painted in a certain way. He hasn't helped. He's held the brush too, but he's kind of created that. But I get it. Like, still, you can't just say anything, And it's funny. I think fans do this. It's the same thing we saw with Malice in the Palace years ago, when you get too comfortable thinking that the players are. Exactly. The players are going to do, like, they're under conduct, yes, but you can just do anything. No, I
Yeah.
think, like Brian said, everybody should be under the same rules, or be prepared when they hop out in this, when Steven Jackson or Ron Artest or, what's the guy's name? Marte hops out and runs up on
Jermaine
you.
O'Neal. Yeah.
If
He got a good punch in too.
if that's how you want to play it. But, I think definitely you need to have the rules. You need to be cool about it. Other thing I thought was, to that point of banning the fan for life, with AI technology, they have fan scanning
They have
software
facial
now, so
recognition
they could
and
do it.
all types of things, but
But how does
you
it?
can go in with all types of looks. Like there's
100%.
so many people going in, and
Yeah.
so like I understand, but I hope they do what they can, like within reason. I understand they don't need to assign someone to follow around, make sure you ain't going to a baseball game.
Right.
But they, within reason, to make sure it actually doesn't happen. And it's not just a ceremonial penalty where they're like, you're banned forever. Don't worry about it. If you try to come back next week, it'll be all good.
Yeah, we wouldn't know anyway, but I agree. It should be enough that people should think about it, because you can't, I'm cool with the home field advantage. Like, I think Philly has that. Oakland's been known for that, etc. But at some point, like, you gotta just be an adult, man. We're talking about sports, bro. None of us even play. Like, come on, man. Relax. Like, this is it's kids' games
Talking
that
about
adults play.
game.
A game, exactly, man.
Right.
Relax. So cool, man. That's our show for today. Let's get to our last few segments and we up out of here. So starting with game ball, Coop segment for anybody that's exemplary in sports right now.
Oh man, I'm gonna give it to a team game ball. OKC and their coach. I think OKC's coach is an underrated coach. I don't even know the dude's name, to be perfectly honest with you, but I think he is an underrated coach. He's good at making adjustments, which that's one of the more obvious signs of a good coach. Second half adjustments, whatever. He's good at that. He knows how to settle his team down, gets them to play either faster, slower, whatever. So good for him getting Oklahoma City a title. Like I said, to me it's sweeter because Durant, Harden, and Westbrook aren't on that team. It's just a group of guys that just came together to make it happen,
should
man.
be, right?
So
Team game.
yeah, a team game, exactly. So good for Oklahoma City. They get my game ball.
Fair. Mine is gonna go to performers who performed at a basketball stadium, but a different type of team, the Wu-Tang Clan, who put on a great show last night. That was amazing. It was cool to see the legends up there. So that was fun. I would
Method Man had a Golden State Warrior thing on. I see some shorts.
Personalized. Yeah.
Right.
It was tight, man. They sound like the album too. Like they put on a good show for sure. So yeah. B.
Yeah, my game ball goes to Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Alex Caruso, aka the other guys, who all in different moments stepped up and really showed out to make sure that they didn't go down the perilous path that they started on in game one when they got thumped. It's because of those guys. SGA was going to be SGA, and he did what he needed to do, but it's because of those guys that they had enough to get them over against a very strong Indiana team who was playing playing as well as they possibly could. But those three guys in particular, there's others, but those three guys, if you look at every single box score from every single game, one of them showed up in a very major way. There's numerous games where Jalen Williams was the number 2 scorer. There were numerous games where Chet Holmgren played both great defense, but also played solid offense, including 18 in the final game. And then there were also several games where Alex Caruso off the bench was a big X factor, which is why he was one of the primary people interviewed, even though he wasn't even a starter. Right? More people wanted to talk to Alex Caruso after they won the championship than Luguentz Dort, who played outstanding defense in that series, or Isaiah Hartenstein, so on and so forth. So those are the three guys that I would give my collective game ball to.
Solid. Hogwash. This was Brian's segment when he said something was a bunch of hogwash, and we laughed and we turned it into a segment. So what y'all got for hogwash this week?
Go ahead, Brian. What's your hogwash?
So same guy, Alex Caruso. Didn't need to throw the shade, man. Didn't need to throw the shade. We've been nothing but the Laker fans have always shown you nothing but love. We constantly talk about how we wished that he had stayed there and didn't end up in Chicago. Like, you've had nothing but love in Los Angeles. Didn't need to throw the shade, man. Hogwash.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll keep it with basketball. My hogwash is to the LA Clippers.
You can stop.
It's a reason. No, it's a reason why
That's all you gotta say.
It's a reason why they have never played in a Western Conference finals before. Yeah. I'm just looking at the details of this trade. I know SGA played for them, but I'm looking at the details now. The Clippers got Paul George, a guy who I've always felt is kind of slightly overrated, but he's a good player. But they got Paul George, and the Thunder received SGA, Danilo Gallinari, remember him, 4 first round picks, and a protected first round pick from Miami, and 2 first round pick swaps. So that's what.
Who were the picks? Was Chet Holmgren one of those picks?
I don't know. I didn't check the picks, but it's just,
that's what makes it interesting.
But it's just that the fact that they just couldn't evaluate talent, a guy like SGA, like what he can probably bring to that team, and they let him go. Now he's the MVP. I don't know if that's ever happened before. I mean, unless a player has won it out, like Wilt Chamberlain or Kareem or somebody like that. But just to trade a player away and then he just goes and blows up like that, never seen it. And of course, it happened to the Clippers, so that just makes it sweeter for me because I just don't like the Clippers.
That's funny.
So,
that's funny.
Yeah,
Brian will not disagree with you.
They are my hogwash.
I'm actually just gonna stay on that fan conduct. It's ridiculous, man. I know we're all at the game. I'm not quiet at games at all, but you keep it sports related. You keep it related to the game. I'm talk major trash about Justin Herbert, for instance, and I followed every time with God bless the man and his family. This is sports. Like, come on, man. Be adults. I don't care how much you're drinking. I've had a lot of drinks at games also. And we ain't talking about nobody's family or nothing like that, man. Relax. Some of that stuff, I ain't gonna lie, has been funny. I've heard players talk about stuff that's been funny. Gilbert Arenas was talking about when they found out Shaq was messing with one of his exes and people were talking about it. He missed all his free throws. Okay, cool. Still personal. Player was all right with it. Fine. Still better to just not cross the line.
Done with humor, not malice.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good way to say it. But either way, if you don't know the line, stay off of it and leave people alone. That's it. So that's Hogwash. Last segment, minute to win it. This is just how we ended every show, with the chance to just kind of you get 30 seconds to a minute to just say what's on your mind. Mine is just thank you. Thank you to everybody who listens. Love all y'all. Really appreciate it. Thankful to the family who checks us every single week. Some of my people at work who check us every week. All the friends and family, I really appreciate y'all. And had a good couple of weeks, so I'm riding on a concert high right now. So including a couple I went to with Brian. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, my hogwash. I read that the Pac-12 is going to come back in football in 2026 to 2031, and I'm telling the Pac-12 to change the name. You should be called the Pacific Ocean League or the West Coast Conference, something. Don't call yourself the Pac-12 no more. And the reason why I'm saying it is because I read the teams who are supposed to be in this new football division. Oregon State and Washington State, fine with that, original members. They got Boise State. I'm even okay with that. But they got Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State. Anybody that wants a Utah State athletic program in the conference, yeah, that's embarrassing. Nobody wants Utah State. They also got Gonzaga, but they don't have a football program. They got it for basketball. So they need an 8th member for football. And they said the front runner, or the 8th member for football for this new Pac-12 conference is Texas State. Like The Rock would say, who in the blue hell is Texas State? Never heard of them. Didn't know they had a football program. They're supposed to be joining the Pac-12. The Pac-12 has a rich tradition. They've had great players. They've had memorable games. Change the damn conference name. You cannot be called the Pac-12 when you got Utah State and Texas State in the damn conference. Just don't. That's a disrespect to all the tradition that the Pac-12 has had all these years. I just can't. I couldn't believe it. Texas State.
I think them the schools from the Dr. Pepper commercials.
Man, oh, Texas State, Utah. Good Lord. Anyway, that's my minute to win it.
Yeah, the only thing, I always go off topic, but in the last week, we've had a president who did about, you want to talk about somebody who loses their damn mind. The man declared victory on successfully organizing a ceasefire after bombs he dropped. That's cold when you can say, hey, I'm the one who stopped this. I stopped all the fighting in between these two countries right after he was the one that dropped the bomb. Like, the only ceasefire was you stopped shooting.
Man.
The only thing that I'll say, generally, that I find sick and disgusting, but the only thing I'll say generally is all that's going on in society right now and in the United States right now is meant to distract. And I know it's hard to stay focused on all the things that are going on when people are being kidnapped from the streets and racially profiled in ICE, and they want people to forget about that, so they go and bomb Iran, and then they go and do what they're doing over in NATO, and there's going to be the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and all of that is so that you can't build critical mass around the importance of any one of these issues, because you can't find a groundswell of people who have the energy to stick with this when something else is going on. Don't lose focus. Don't get disheartened. Pay attention, because all of this is a strategy. No, he's not a smart man at all, but he's got people who are evil and intelligent on his team. And it's super important that all of us keep our eyes and understand that there's a message behind the scenes that is going on. And it's incumbent upon all of us more now than ever to keep an eye on what's going on in our country.
Sports Counterpoints,
Yep.
June 25th, 2025. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.